Many thanks for staying tuned. Let's begin from the Ukraine and Russia war scene where President Volodymyr Zelenskiy said today that Ukraine will continue to work with partners, including the US, on peace proposals. Now, this is the second day of talks in Switzerland after Washington proposed a plan calling for concession from Kiev. On Sunday, Ukraine and the United States said in a joint statement that they had drafted a refined peace framework after talks in Geneva, although they did not provide specifics.
So it is in my personal view that we've had probably the most productive and meaningful meeting so far in this entire process since we've been involved in from the beginning. We have a very good work product that was already built on a foundation of input from all the relative parties involved here, and we were able to go through some of those items now point by point, and I think we've made good progress. Our teams have now gone to their rooms as we're working on some of the suggestions that were proffered to us, so we're working through making some changes, some adjustments, in the hopes of furthering narrowing the differences and getting closer to something that both Ukraine and obviously the United States are very comfortable with. Obviously, this will ultimately have to be signed off by our presidents, although I feel very comfortable about that happening given the progress we've made. And then obviously there's the Russian side of the equation. But again, we think we have some pretty substantial insights over the last 9 months into some of the things that are really important to them. So I think the takeaway from it is I think this was a very, very meaningful, I would say probably best meeting and day we've had so far in this entire process, going back to when we first came into office in January. But there's still some work left to do, and that's what our teams are going to be doing right now. And we'd like to come back to you maybe a little later tonight with further updates.
Meanwhile, Zelensky said Russia must pay for the war in Ukraine and that a decision on using frozen Russian assets was crucial.
Right now, we are at a critical moment, and we are working closely with the United States, with European partners, with many others to define steps that can end Russia's war against us, against Ukraine, and bring real security. Of course, we all continue working with partners, especially the United States, and look for compromises that strengthen but not weaken us. And we will continue explaining how dangerous it is to pretend that aggression is something one can simply overlook and move on. In the steps we have coordinated with the side of the US, we've managed to keep extremely sensitive points on the table, including the full release of all Ukrainian prisoners.